Oh, that wasn't what it was supposed to be. Welcome to another episode of More Than Therapy. We have some technical difficulties. We're gonna have one more commercials. Let's do this.
The hardest thing with mental health is it becomes a spiral. And sometimes all you literally need is a little catalyst to help you to stop.
When I'm in pain or when I'm suffering, I have a really hard time reaching out and asking for help.
I know it's so hard to talk about mental health, but when you don't talk about it, you feel more isolated, you feel more alone.
If you feel something in your gut, if you feel something's wrong, you should, talk to them about that.
Sometimes starting a conversation with someone about their mental health can seem awkward, but your support can make a huge difference.
And I think that that's hopeful in those really dark times.
You might not know what to say, but there are a lot of things you can say to open things up.
I know you're going through some stuff, and I want you to know I'm here.
I deal with the same issues as well.
Maybe it's me, but I was wondering if you're all right.
Learn more about how to start the conversation at seizetheawkward.org.
Welcome back to More Than Therapy, where we dive into the minds that are shaping the future of mental health and human potential. Today, we have a guest who doesn't just push boundaries, he defines them, runs past them, and then redefines them again. He's a man who has merged the grueling physical discipline of an ultramarathoner with the deep internal exploration of a psychonaut visionary. Our guest is John Borden, the author of Your Mindset is Your Reality. He's not talking about simple self-help. He's talking about leveraging altered states of consciousness to achieve what the average person would call impossible. We're going to discuss his journey from the starting line of a 100-mile race to the insights gained in deep internal exploration. We'll explore how these tools have allowed him to literally dismantle self-limiting beliefs and why he believes the greatest frontier isn't external, but internal. John's episode is Unblocking Our Potential, How Psychedelics Are Redefining Impossible. Please join in welcoming the author, the ultramarathoner, and the visionary, John Borden.
Appreciate you, Felipe. That was a hell of an introduction, my man.
Hey, your book is so inspiring. Of course, who could write anything else? When you write your next one, I would love to do the foreword. But anyways, we're here now.
I appreciate that, dude. There's definitely been thoughts about what the second time I sit down and pour my heart and thoughts out, what's it going to look like, and I think I'm writing my next book as we speak right now. In here and out here, maybe not on paper, but I'm living it.
There you go. If your mindset is your reality, what is the most profound lie you had to accept as true before you could finally shatter it?
Man, the thing that was really limiting me for a long time. Are you still there, Felipe?
Yes, I am.
Okay, cool.
The single for the short. Hello, it's all about the shorts.
Perfect. All right, I just wanted to make sure I still had you. So that realization, right? That text that I sent to my mother, your mindset is your reality, came on the heels of an extremely transformative weekend in which I worked through so many different things. But the biggest thing was that I recognized that everything that had shaped my reality, right? How I saw the world, the narcissism that I had, the lack of self-confidence, it all just stemmed from that exactly, a lack of self-confidence that led to my alcoholism, my cocaine problem, my chasing of women, so on and so forth. And so once I got down to that root of saying, no, all of this is just a manifestation of my own mind. And if I just approach life with confidence, I'm not going to have these same issues that I've had. It was a pretty freeing moment to just say, oh no, trust yourself. You got this.
Indeed. How do the mental strategies you use to overcome the agonizing pain in an ultra marathon translate directly to overcoming emotional or psychological resistance in daily life?
Yeah, well, Felipe, the biggest thing there is that when you're doing an event like a 100-mile ultra marathon that I did a week and a half ago, or, the couple other longer races that I've done and different challenging events, there's a million times throughout that your brain is telling you, dude, it's not worth it. Why are you doing this? What is the point of doing this? And you just have to tell yourself, I'm exactly where I want to be. I do not want to be anywhere else. And I'm going to sit here and I'm going to grind through this, and I'm going to keep going and keep going and keep going. No matter what my mind tells me, no matter what my body tells me, I know what I need to do to make sure that I complete this and that I do myself proud. And it's the same thing that translates into so many other areas of life, is that there are so many different challenges that can face us, whether it's for me as an entrepreneur and starting my own personal training and mental health focused business, Get Like Fitness, or it's, any other endeavors in life. You're going through school, you're going through a tough time in work, and you really need to grit through to make sure you make your performance. It's how hard are you willing to push? Are you willing to keep going when everything tells you it's not worth it, just give up? And that's really the sweet nectar that comes out of events like that.
I don't think I've ever met a person in my whole entire days on this planet, and I've been here a long time, as you probably can tell by the phrase.
Well, at least like 33 years old, right?
Plus 20. How does someone accomplish the feat of completing a 100-mile marathon? Because in my mind, I only heard of ones that were approximately 30-something kilometers. 100 miles. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, Felipe, how do you eat an elephant?
Slowly.
One bite at a time. Right? It's the same thing. The first time I did an ultra marathon, it was a 46 miler, and the longest that I'd done before that was 13. The longest I'd done is a half marathon. And so to exceed my longest run ever by 33 miles at that point, and over 3 times as long, was a really intimidating thing. And as I'm driving to the starting line, that theory comes up, right? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. You can't focus on the 100 miles. You can't focus on how far that finish line is from where you're starting. All you can focus on is taking one little step after one little step after one little step. And if you can manage your effort and you can just keep going, you're going to get to that finish line. And it's a pretty badass thing to will yourself through and just keep going and just keep taking that one more bite.
I like that one. I mean, I could never see myself eating an elephant. I'm a vegan, but I know what you're saying. Beyond simply finishing a race, how has the discipline of ultramarathoning changed the way you define success or failure in your personal development journey?
I'm not sure that it does. When I had my experience with psilocybin mushrooms 3 years ago that shifted the trajectory of my life, I knew at that moment that I was setting in stone the changes that were going to lead to a completely different life for myself. And so regardless of what life actually looked like from that point forward, I mean, unless I were to go back to getting blackout drunk and doing cocaine on a regular basis, there wouldn't have been a thing that said that it was unsuccessful. But doing these types of things helps other people see the type of change that's possible. And that's really my why for doing them. Beyond just the want to challenge myself and be the best version of myself as much as possible. The reason that I'm so vocal about it is because I want people to see the type of change that is possible with psilocybin, with psychedelics, and to be able to understand that they're a tool that's on this planet for us to use for our benefit. And I'm hoping that, the work that I do in this regard and, pushing myself to the extreme and finding new levels for myself with the help of these substances is something that inspires other people to give it a shot, because I think that there's a lot of positive to be gained, and hopefully for laws to change on the national and international level to make it so that people don't feel like they're going to be prosecuted or persecuted for what they choose to do with their own body and their own mind.
I like that. What is the practical difference between positive thinking and the kind of fundamental mindset shift that actually redefines what you believe is possible. If you think it, you believe it is a concept that we've heard, a concept that I've heard my whole entire life. You know, some people adhere to it, some people don't believe it's possible. Some people have skewed cognitions as it pertains to it, believe things that probably isn't physically or mentally even possible. But in your opinion, in your experience, you know what I'm saying, what is the practical difference between positive thinking, you know, the affirmations and the things like that, and the kind of fundamental mindset shift that actually redefines what you believe and what is possible?
Yeah, man. Words are everything. The words that we use speaking to ourselves, speaking to others, are so powerful on so many fronts. And really the biggest is exactly like you're saying, the affirmations that you give ourselves, how we talk to ourselves through these moments of doubt and pain and growth and challenge. And one of the biggest moments where I experienced this came during my first race that I ever did. And that was a half marathon Spartan race, which is all obstacles, monkey bars, sandbag carries, things of that nature. It was a half marathon Spartan race, and it was 2 weeks after I started running again. It was by far the longest I'd ever run. I'd never run more than 7 miles before that, and that was 13.1. And so I jumped into that with basically zero preparation. And by the time I hit the 8 mile mark, everything was cramping up. I was going through so much dehydration, pain, and it sucked to trudge through it. But I just kept telling myself, I'm a fucking machine. I'm a fucking machine. I'm a fucking machine. And I never stopped running. I didn't allow myself to walk. And I made it through that finish line. And I ended up finishing the top 5%, which was pretty, mind-blowing for myself, having not run in 11 plus years and being able to cross the finish line of a Spartan race half marathon in the top, top 1/20th of people. So just telling myself I'm a fucking machine allowed my body to believe it and keep working. If I were telling myself, oh my God, this is so hard, this sucks, I don't want to be here, yada, 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 then I would have bitched and complained and walked my way to the finish line, and we might be not having this discussion today.
There you go. I get it. I get it. As a psychonaut visionary, how do you structure an experience or a microdosing regimen to ensure it yields actionable insights rather than just a fleeting feeling of oneness?
Yeah, well, so the biggest thing there is intentionality. When advising anybody on how to use psychedelics, I make sure that they're in the right mindset of trying to gain something from it, to ask a specific question, to work on something that they know that they need to work on and have been struggling to get over the hump with. If people are using it just because they want to feel a little lighter or like increase creativity, then I don't think they've quite gotten it. And when it comes to psychedelics, it really does come down to that intentionality and how you plan on going to it, whether that's microdosing and, just having a want to, explore life a little bit differently and whatever that means for that person, or in a large scale session where, there's typically something very, very specific that person wants to work through. It's when people go into it without that they see mushrooms, they see psilocybin as a recreational thing without the type of value that it really provides. When if it's used intentionally, it provides so much potential good for the user and how they're going to effectively change their life from that moment forward.
Indeed. Unlocking our potential. What specific mental locks do you believe psychedelics are uniquely able to pick that traditional therapy or coaching might miss?
Well, it's not that they might miss it. I think it just kind of turbocharges the change potential in us. There's a lot of science about what psilocybin does to, kind of deactivate the default mode network and allow us to have a very large window of neuroplasticity to create good habits and lose bad habits. And so it just makes the whole process a lot more frictionless. And, combined with therapy, combined with you know, doing the right work from reading or listening to books or podcasts, or, you know, doing self-development work, meditating, doing breath work, you know, just using mindfulness practices. All of these things combine to create a major potential for change. And, you know, with the psychedelics at the forefront of that, uh, it allows people that ability to take, you know, what's learned in therapy or what's learned through their own personal development work, and really make it that much more effective.
Mm-hmm. I have a friend, a therapist actually, here in North Carolina, the Durham area where I'm at, and she microdoses, uses
Hmm.
psychedelics, and she says she's having a lot of breakthroughs internally. My fear, as an addiction specialist at one point, or still am exactly. Is there a risk of becoming dependent on these tools for breakthrough? And if so, how do you integrate the lessons so that the altered state becomes less necessary over time?
Yeah, well, you know, that's really the key, is that, you know, when you get the message, hang up the phone, is a really big saying in the psychedelic space. And it really goes back to understanding that the magic isn't in the mushrooms. The magic isn't in the LSD or the ketamine or the DMT or whatever it is, right? They're going to provide you a window to see what it is that needs to shift, what you can make an improvement on, so on and so forth. But the magic isn't in the mushrooms. The magic is in the intentional work that you do every day. And so, you know, with that in mind, uh, I feel like psychedelics, particularly psilocybin, is very self-limiting in terms of the amount that you can consume. Because I noticed, you know, from experience that there's a very large rate of diminishing returns when it comes to psilocybin usage, and that if you try to do it too frequently, you're not going to get the messages that you need to receive. You're not going to integrate them properly, and it's ultimately going to be ineffective. But when, you know, spread out to a point where you use the sessions intentionally to look at yourself with a very clear lens, and then take those lessons and integrate them moving forward, you'll notice less and less need slash and or want to go into a deep session.
Mm. Thank you for that knowledge, and thank you for explaining that, especially with your
Hmm.
experience and your knowledge of it. I do appreciate your knowledge base. I remember I did a podcast, might have been 2, maybe 3 years ago, and there was a therapist who was promoting psychedelics, and it was at that time, at least for us on the East Coast. I don't know about you, you might have been in it for a while. It was such a radical thing. It was just like, oh my gosh, it was so jarring. You know what I'm saying? I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I should release this episode. But now it's a norm. A doctor that I used to work with at a mental health and addiction facility in a rural setting. He's here in Durham, and his whole practice is based on psychedelics now. And we're talking about an MD, and he's got
Hmm.
people from our previous practice who are working with him: a nurse practitioner, 2 therapists, a social worker, and that's a focal thing. And then when I Google it, when I look at therapists that are similar to him or practices that are similar to him, they're growing. It's growing. It's a growing. I'm not going to say trend, but it's a growing norm. Maybe would be a way to say it.
Hmm. Yeah, big time. You know, when I had my experience 3 years ago now, uh, it was something that was just starting to come into the cultural zeitgeist. And so, you know, when I had the experience that I had, and I recognized that it was going to be as positively life changing as it was, I knew that I needed to document it. And that's where, you know, the inspiration for the book came from, was that I recognized that there was just a huge opportunity to help change the stigma around mushrooms, and to show the potential for these things to help people live an incredible life, even if life might already be okay, right? Up until that point, I thought my life was good, right? I didn't realize how bad I was deep in this shit, you know, with the alcoholism, the cocaine, yada, yada, yada. I thought life was already pretty damn good. And if you asked me, I would have said it didn't need to be better. But when I was shown how much better it could be, it became such an undeniable fact. And I just wanted to share that perspective shift and that reality with people, that we have so much more potential than we give ourselves credit for when we're not using our lives in the most productive, most beneficial way to the rest of the world way that we can. And so, I wanted to help change that stigma. And thankfully, in the few years since my experience, it's just continued to become more and more popular, and more, the world has become more and more aware to what these things can do. And I'm glad to kind of be at the forefront of bringing that message to people.
Indeed. If psychedelics can redefine impossible, what is the most radical long-term vision for humanity that you've been granted during a conscious expanding experience?
Well, so I don't know if there's been, a specific time during a psilocybin or otherwise session that I've had, that relates to the potential for humanity with psychedelics particularly. But one book that I read, are you familiar with Michael Pollan?
I am not. Tell me about his
Okay.
works, please.
Yeah, he's an author, also produced a documentary on Netflix around psychedelics for a book with the same documentary name called How to Change Your Mind. And so a lot of people know him from that, but he's got another book that's entitled This Is Your Mind on Plants that I read about a year and a half ago. And it was really eye-opening to me at the time to read that piece, because it takes the reader through 3 different plants: poppy, aka heroin, mescaline and the peyote cactus, and then caffeine through tea and coffee. And the section on caffeine was extremely eye-opening because it depicted how in the 1400s, the Western world of Europe was in the Dark Ages and had been for hundreds, 1,000 years. And there had been no real progress made over that time. Culture basically stayed stagnant for an extended period of time. And one of the primary factors of that is that there wasn't clean drinking water, right? Everyone had defecated in the streams and rivers and so on and so forth. So you couldn't really drink the water unless it had alcohol in it. And the alcohol would kill the bacteria, would make it so that you had something clean to drink. And so people were just getting drunk all day, every day, which meant that they weren't very productive, because how can you be if your mind and body is fucked up from alcohol all day, every day? But when caffeine got introduced through tea and coffee, and you needed to boil water to produce tea or coffee, now all of a sudden people had clean drinking water that wasn't making you lethargic like alcohol, but was now making you more alert and more aware and more connected to other people. And so people, would congregate at tea and coffee houses and discuss ideas. And therefore the Age of Enlightenment came out, which then led to us, exploring the New World and, creating so many incredible things in the next, 100, 500, whatever years until we are now, right? So back then, caffeine had just such a major impact on the world's culture. And I believe that psilocybin mushrooms are going to have the same type of impact in terms of how we empathize with each other, how we are able to self-analyze and become the best versions of ourselves and be able to be incredible community to one another. And so I think that psilocybin is going to have a monumental impact on the way that we live life in the next 10, 20, 50, 100 years. And I can't wait to see what that actually looks like.
Indeed. It says the FDA cleared that word.
Psilocybin.
For depression treatment in 2023. Now, though they didn't, grant full approval in 2023, it was a significant year. In June, that's when of that year, they approved the first ever draft guidance for researchers conducting trials on psychedelic drugs. And this was a major step in acknowledging their therapeutic, approval and potential. It has been granted breakthrough therapy designation for treating depression. And I've known people that have had electric shock and taking all the medications and had the genetic testing to see what would work and what would not work. And it still was ineffective in regards to their wellness. And that this could be the key, the breakthrough, and helping them break through that depression things where they can be their true, authentic self. And we're looking for the breakthrough. We're looking for the decision regarding that to be a mainstay in treatment for depression. Either they said late 2026 or early 2027. So this relief for those that suffer from major depression is on the horizon. We blink and it will be federally approved across the board. And that's a beautiful thing, I think, because anything that can help our people get better, be their authentic selves, despite the pain or the depression that might be truly debilitating themselves. So thank you for your, you coming to the show and bringing that light, because honestly, we would not have done the research to learn any more about what we already knew about it if it wasn't for your presentation today and for you sending us that lovely book. You go to a commercial.
I appreciate you, Felipe.
We'll be right back with a few more questions, if you don't mind. I know you're limited on time, right?
Yeah. I'm good. Probably for another 10 minutes.
Okay. The next commercial break, and we just got one or two more questions.
I can't breathe. I have migraines, numbness, weight loss. I live with it every day. The illness that I'm suffering from is an anxiety disorder, and it deserves to be treated like any other illness. But it's not.
Indeed, it's not. All right, we're finishing up. After all your experiences running across mountains and exploring the depths of consciousness, what is the simplest truth you have come to understand about the nature of reality and our place in it?
It's what we make of it. You can look at the world with a completely negative lens and see every bad thing that happens, or you can look at life with a positive lens and choose to pick out the good in everything that happens. Whether it's getting fired from a job or, a loved one passing or whatever it is, there's always positive to be found. And if we focus on the positive, you're going to continue to find more and more positive. If you focus on the negative, it's going to weigh you down. It's going to make life feel devoid of joy. But when you focus on the positive, it doesn't matter how many bad things happen, because the next good thing is right around the corner, because you're going to make it good.
Indeed. All right. Tell people about, your book, where to get it. Tell them about getpsychedfitness.com. This is your plug moment.
Bang, bang. Yeah. So getpsychedfitness.com is where you're going to find all things Get Psyched Fitness. You're going to hear about my training methodologies. You're going to hear class schedules. If you want to reach out to me for online training, do virtual training. So feel free to shoot me an email or sign up for a free consultation through the Get Psyched website. My book, Your Mindset is Your Reality, takes you, the reader, through everything that led up to, encapsulated, and followed my life-changing experience with psilocybin mushrooms. It takes you through depression, anxiety, being bullied as a kid, alcoholism, cocaine addiction, so on and so forth, into the inner workings of everything that unraveled during my psilocybin experience, and then how I use that as a jumping point to go from somebody who is living a terrible, directionless life to inspiring others on a regular basis and living my life to the absolute fullest. So you can catch that on Amazon. It's on Audible. It is also on Apple audiobooks. Again, Your Mindset is Your Reality. And I hope that my book touches you in some beautiful type of way.
Indeed. It definitely did. And it will for others. What an incredible journey we just took, John. Thank you so much for pushing the boundaries of what we thought was possible, both on the trail and in the mind. Our core takeaway today is powerful. When you define your ideal self and you work like hell to become that, you truly can redefine impossible. This conversation around performance, healing, and vision is clearly shifting, and John is leading that charge. To all our watchers and listeners, if John's philosophy resonated with you, I highly encourage you to pick up his book, Your Mindset is Your Reality, available now wherever you get your books and audiobooks. Yeah, the audiobooks, that's impressive to me. You can follow John's journey, his training, and his insights on his social media. It's right here on the it'll be in the show notes. It's right here on the screen if you're watching via YouTube. And for all his resources, visit his website, getpsychfitness.com. Thank you again, John, for being such a transparent and visionary guest on the Modern Therapy. To everyone listening and watching, thank you for tuning in. Remember that personal growth isn't just about healing the past. It's about actively creating the future. We'll catch you next time as we continue to explore new paths toward mental wellness. Until then, define your impossible. Be well and continue to be great.
Oh, that, Felipe.